Hey Richard, what's good?
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, everything's okay. What are you up to?
Just moving tomorrow morning, so I'm only moving like 2 blocks to a different place, and I was just carrying a few things over there.
Cheaper rent?
Yeah, like massively cheaper rent, and
Oh, that a boy.
yeah, yeah.
So
And
I'm starting.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
what do you
keep
say?
going, man. Keep going.
I
Tell me
was just
about
gonna
it.
mention that basically, and then this is like I'll spend like another year in San Francisco, and then next year I'm hoping to move back to Washington. There's small town outside Seattle called Kirkland. I'll try to basically move there in like July 2024, and I'm kind of excited about that. That'll get me back closer to like some hiking trails that are accessible like right outside the door. So that's
Nice. You're
my
on the same
yeah
path.
yeah
You
it's
want to
my
be
plan.
closer to nature too.
Yeah.
Well, I'll come out and visit then. Are you American yet or what?
No, I would have started my green card application like directly about a year ago, but they sort of like paused. Uh, like I'm like on a 3 year visa. I can be in the States for 3 years, and it gets renewed every 3 years by whatever company I'm working for. And you can apply directly for a green card whenever you want. Apparently, when you're on that visa. And I found out about that, and I started the application, but they paused like applications just before I sort of got into the process. And now I'm basically waiting for them maybe about a year or so. Maybe they'll unpause, and then I'll be like applying for a green card in about one
Okay.
year from now as well. Yeah, yeah,
You'll be American.
yeah. That would be neat. There would be a lot of freedom to have like dual citizenship and the ability to just work for any company without having to like negotiate like a visa as part of the job offer.
Didn't know you had to negotiate a visa, but interesting.
Yeah, I guess not directly, but like there's a lot of like basically unless the company is willing to like do all the paperwork for you to get the visa approved, then you can't. Then it's harder. You can't just like show up for work.
Yeah, but these days everybody's working remote, and you're computer based, so can't you just work for these companies back in Canada?
Yeah, I guess it's based on each company's preference. I have a friend that's working fully remote right now for an American company, and he's told them that he like wants to move back to Canada, and they're kind of telling him like no, like he's allowed to work like anywhere in the States. Like this year he's going to Europe for like 4 months working remotely while he's over there. But whenever he asks them if he can like permanently move back to Canada and just continue working fully remote, they keep saying like no, basically. And but who knows why? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, guess he just has to figure out what he wants. If he wants to move back and they're not accommodating, I guess you should move
Yeah,
on. Unless they can provide a very good reason, but if there is no good reason, they just want him in the States, then,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. He's got a pretty good deal. I guess he likes the work, and he's uh, like he basically does like a 4 day work, even though he gets like a full salary. He does like 4 day work week. I think he puts in sometimes like an extra hour some days, but he doesn't work Friday, and so he sort of has a good work life balance. I guess it's worth it, even though they're being weird about the Canada thing. It's worth it for him to stay.
yeah. I can tell you, man, I went full remote, even though I'm still in the military, and it's pretty damn good.
Yeah,
I don't see, I could never go back to the way it was, even a hybrid 3 days a week. Like being anchored down to one particular place,
right.
and, especially a place you don't love, you don't want to be in because of your job. That for me is a thing of the past. I'm not going to settle for that ever again.
Yeah, I've
Because
always
why?
Yeah, sometimes I like to go into the office because I get to see people. But that's actually another reason why I'm hoping to move back to like the Kirkland, Seattle area is because I've got about two or three friends that are also kind of either there or moving there, and I think I would end up seeing a lot of people in person if I lived there,
Yeah,
outside of work as well, which would be nice.
yeah. Instead of the work environment, you just show up at a recreation center, go join in some basketball, or like
Yeah,
hit the gym, be a part of a community that way. I'd rather hang out with those people, get to know them progressively over time. Because if you go at the same time, you'll come across the same crowd, and eventually they'll be warm up to you and smile and ask you what's up, and then maybe you can, you know, make some friends that way. But if you're playing basketball, I mean, or sports, that's a fast way to meet people.
Yeah.
At least that way, you're doing something productive, you're having fun at work. I find, at least in the military, it's all very toxic. It's negative, a lot of complaining,
Yeah.
and it kind of rubs off on you. I was doing so well without cussing for so long, and then I, start hanging out at work and going to the mess, and now every other word was the F bomb.
Right.
You just, they kind of rub off on you. The language, the attitude, pessimism, right? Like
Yeah.
it's, so I've been away. I still complain for fun, but it's nowhere near as like soul crushing as it was. Like I'm very detached from work, and I like that. Like I'm no longer obsessed about the problems in the military and the lack of attention from the government, and
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just separate from it.
Once you get away for a bit, it all seems very silly. It's so easy to get like trapped in a certain mindset and be so close when you're so close to it every day. But once you like get away for a bit, then it just seems like why does anyone care about these things?
Yeah. Well, I've been reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I'm coming to realize that I want to be rich.
I didn't ever.
I don't
I've
want to be
heard about
poor.
that book.
Uh,
I haven't actually.
uh,
I read, I think, the idea of that book before, and I was a bit confused about like what its message was. Because I think isn't it kind of saying that like the rich dad is just very like stringy and like not generous, and then the poor dad is like kind of like a good person, but he's given away too much money or something like that.
your poor dad is your typical highly educated, middle class person. Doesn't have a lot of financial knowledge and is constantly in debt, living from paycheck to paycheck. Maybe some investments, but just the poor dad represents your middle class person with a limited amount of financial education. The rich dad is what can happen if you become well versed in financial education
Uh,
or financial knowledge, and you understand how finances work. You build a foundation, and they use an analogy I really like building a skyscraper. So, like building your empire, or rather, building your wealth, is like building a skyscraper. And a lot of people want like a quick solution, get rich quick kind of thing. And so, they'll get a little bit of financial knowledge and have like maybe a little bit of a concrete base. But as they start to build up, eventually it'll crumble. And some people are so fast, they have no financial knowledge trying to get rich quick. It's like they're just building on dust. They're building their tower on dust.
uh,
But what the rich dad is saying, one of the lessons he's saying, and there's many, I've just started the book, so I'm not an authority on that topic or on that book yet. But like the foundation for a skyscraper is deep. Lots of concrete, lots of rebar, lots of support pillars, and that is your financial knowledge. You need to put energy into building a good foundation, a good base before you even begin construction, because without it, everything you do will topple over. You got to understand how money works. And they don't teach it in the education system. Absolutely not. And I guarantee you, like what I went through didn't teach it, and they most certainly are not teaching it now. And it's like what school's preparing kids for is to work blue collar or white collar jobs, contribute to the economy, never surpass middle class.
I think that was
Work
my impression of when I think back on what I was taught. I feel like it was pushing me in that direction.
absolutely. And you can get more money if you work one of the higher end jobs, and we need these jobs. This is how civilization runs, society runs. We need doctors and lawyers, and well, I don't know if we really need lawyers.
I guess even though
Definitely
like a
need.
standard blue collar job, if they are smart with money, they invest, they could do just as well, like find a cheap place to live, work decent hours, invest money. You can do pretty well even on a very low wage, I guess.
Yeah, but like the old knowledge of saving money and investing in the market and then hoping that grows so that you can retire with $1 million or $2 million in the pocket. What comes to mind and what I've read over and over again is hope is not a plan, and we see that like with the market these days, it's very unpredictable, and part of it is the ignorance of our government, and the other part I have no idea. I don't know what's
Yeah,
going on,
yeah,
and I mean, do you really? Yeah,
yeah,
it's just like that
yeah. Go ahead.
old. I was just gonna say, like the old mentality, the old way of thinking is you invest and you save and your money grows and compounds. I mean, that's using hope as a plan, and that I don't think is the solution. I don't think that's the way forward anymore.
Yeah, that's. I guess I
You're
wonder
saying?
about that. I know, like the market is quite turbulent now, but it seems like when I think about investing these days, I'm just thinking about like putting money in what's called like an index fund called the S&P 500, which I guess is like a curated list of like the biggest 500 companies in the United States. And like historically, that index fund, its value like tracks the value of like the American economy. And a lot of people cite like specifically the S&P 500, which is the name of the index fund, which is just tracking like the market.
Yeah.
Yeah, like everybody sort of says like, that is just equal to the American economy's value. And so then long term, I sort of feel like that has to increase just because of the sheer amount of money that's in it, and everyone is tied to it, and every company is tied to it. And if that tanks or stays the same for like many years, then everyone is like affected equally. Like I think like it's very hard to beat that index fund because of its size, and so it's like whatever it does, you can't like really do better than it. So I sort of have this idea that like as far as investing goes, like unless you're sort of taking your money and using it to start a business, which is a different kind of investment, that's like totally different. But if you're just like sort of just want to put your money in stocks and have it grow, I feel like the S&P 500 is got to be like a fairly safe bet, like super long term, because like all the billionaires are counting on it, and all the companies are, any company that's making money is increasing the value of American economy, and by extension like the S&P 500. So I feel like I don't know. It's weird though. It's very turbulent, like short term now. Like year by year, it's like dropping and raising like crazy. But I feel like over time, it might still hit its goal of roughly like 8% a year growth.
You want to look at the long-term average as long as it's growing
Yeah, we won't
consistently.
know.
Like
Yeah,
you just, it, what the wealthy barber is saying is that you just want the average because on average the market grows. You don't want
yeah,
to try to beat the average. Then you're going to be perhaps paying fees to these guys who are trying to predict the future in order to get you a better rate. But really, in the end, is it really a better percentage if they get you 12%, but they charge you 4? It's just better to try to go with the average if you are going to go that route. And the thing is like as you see, the market is going up and down. So when it comes time to retirement, so there's another guy. There's a guy I'm following actually, and his name is Darren Mitchell, and you should take a look at him too. And he always draws like this mountain. He's like the top is you're saving for retirement. You build your money, you accumulate money, and you get to the top. But then what? So a lot of people, they just look at accumulating wealth, growing money, but then they don't come up with the exit strategy. Like how are they going to spend their money? Because there's only two things you can do. You can either give your money away or you can spend your money at that point once you're at the top of the mountain. So what's the plan for you to, like, how are you going to spend your money? And what happens if the market is super low? You're going to start pulling out your assets and selling and taking a loss in order for you to live. But that's the reality is when it comes to time to pull things out, the market might be low. It could be low for a year. It could be low for 2 years. So what's the plan in order to not lose or hemorrhage all of your accumulated wealth by selling low? So Darren Mitchell, I don't know if it's just, he's running a podcast to financially or to educate people financially on finances, or if he's trying to sell the Infinity Banking product, which is basically a life insurance policy premium that you pay into, and then you can pull out the equity and become your own bank essentially by not paying the bank interest. You're paying the company interest, which is 4 or 5%, but really that goes back into the company, which then is paid out as dividends to the people who invested in it. So, and also when you pull out money, your total amount that you've contributed is not affected. So if you put in $1 million and you pull out 500,000, you're still gaining compound interest on the $1 million. That's what they're saying anyway. Even though you pulled out half of that, you're paying interest 4 or 5%, but you really needed to do that because the market's tremendous. It just like fucking crashed. But this is separate from the market. So Gary Mitchell talks about this as sort of like a, not really a plan B, but like just another option. And what life has taught me, it's important to diversify. You go all in the market, and that's your livelihood when you retire. Well, we know the market's unpredictable, and hoping that it's not going to crash or go down, again, not a plan. It's all interesting stuff. I mean, I'm just starting to scratch the surface. I want to be rich, Richard, and to do that, I need the foundation. I have a mind of an entrepreneur. You know, I'm gonna come into a little bit of money because of my service and injuries, and I'd like to be able to, you know, build that wealth. And so I got a lot of learning to do. I think Robert has almost 10 books out, and I'm just like starting with the first book, which is Rich Dad Poor Dad. So, and I thoroughly recommend it. I'm 70, 80 pages in, and a lot of it ties into what I've kind of I stumbled upon just going through YouTube and talking to friends, and then there's a lot of new stuff. So, for instance, like, do you know what the difference between an asset and a liability? Do you know what the difference is?
Like, maybe roughly, not specifically.
So, and I didn't know. I'm just gonna hang out here. So I thought my condo in BC was an asset, and I thought my condo in Ottawa was an asset. But an asset is something that, over time, gives you money. A liability is something that costs you money. And I can tell you right now, 100% sure that my BC place is a liability. I have to pay into it every year because the rent money that I can't get enough to cover the cost of the mortgage and the cost of the bills, the insurance and all that stuff, because I'm paying
I guess
the mortgage.
At best, you're sort of taking on the risk that you'll be able to sell it one day for more, and that's like sort of just banking on the fact that it's like an investment. I guess if you could increase the rent or something or sell.
Right. So you can increase the rent. So there's different things you can do. So in the future, okay, so when I was buying a place, I was like only considering the next buyer of the full unit, right? Like simple-minded middle-class person. You know, a family wanting to buy the unit, to live in the unit, and the unit being a liability for them. All right, using new terms I've learned. And that was the mindset. So I'd be like, 2 bed, 2 bath, even though all I need is like 1 bedroom and a fucking can, because like I don't, I'm a minimalist, right? Okay, 1 bed, 1 bath, but like I'm buying for the next family because I want to be able to sell it again. But I'm realizing now that, you know, I need to start looking for places that don't have maintenance costs like the condo, because they have bylaws and they stop you from doing stuff like turning your property into a business. So they have bylaws to prevent short-term accommodations, but that's where all the money is at. Airbnb, or I would say I'll go with Airbnb because they have insurance. If someone messes your place up, you can. I'm Airbnb my condo out in Ottawa right now. I'm not there. I've been away for a week. I'm making $1,000. I come back on the 30th to grab my suit for my buddy's wedding. Make sure the cleaner did their job, because I created. I realized that the standard for cleaners, they're not achieving an Airbnb standard, even though they say that they're an Airbnb cleaning company. So I'm giving them a checklist, like step by step. I'm telling them how to suck eggs, literally. And if they're willing to work with me, then good. It's going to better them. It's not going to take any more time. It's just going to, you know, make sure they don't miss anything. So I'm giving this to the cleaner. They come in. do the job. I inspect, grab my suit, and if they didn't shit the bed, then I leave. And if they shit the bed, then I fire them and I clean the place up according to my military standard. Because I'm OCD when it comes to that shit. And then the next guest comes in, and stays for a week, and I make another $1,000. I head back to go see family. Like I'm just making $2,000 in 2 weeks. Crazy money. Am I even at home?
Yeah.
I don't want to be at home. I don't want to be in Ottawa. So it's like my place was just sitting as a liability. But if I continue to do this, if I can increase the cost with greater ratings or learn how to co-host and actually co-host people, I teach them how to set up their places. Now I'm going to start having all this extra income. And, I can turn my Ottawa place from a liability into an asset. But I'm not going to basically be living at home. And that's fine. That's the idea is it's no longer a home. I'm not even attached to that place. So I want to do the same thing to my BC place because my BC place is I'm hemorrhaging money there. So I can't, according to the bylaws, have short-term accommodation. But if you're smart about it, the condo doesn't need to know. Unless they go onto Airbnb and check themselves, they don't need to know. So like what I could do is I can be kind of sneaky, and I can say, the room or the unit that you're gonna be renting out is top floor, and here's the address of the condo, and the unit number will be provided to you once you book. So that way, the people on the board, if they do look for Airbnb places in their vicinity, because there's a lot of retired people who have no time or who have tons of time on their hands and nothing else to do. At least they won't be able to track me down. I'm saying it on here. Hopefully they don't hear it. But like these bylaws get in the way, and good luck trying to buy a detached home on Vancouver Island or in BC. Like good luck. Like it was already ridiculous and super challenging before, and now it's impossible. It's going to take you like your entire life to save up for a down payment for a $1.7 million home, which is like what the detached homes are going for. But a detached home, like what I'm going to be looking for now is a place that has multiple rooms, like 4 or 5 rooms, a basement that has multiple rooms, and like a setup with a kitchen and a living space. So it's 2 separate units, because then I can Airbnb one or the other. I list them both, and then if I have like a decent sized piece of land, I have a trailer. So if I get both rented out, I just chill in my trailer. I have an RV, right? Dirt cheap RV, and if I wanted to, I could take that RV and I can piss off and I can go around the island. Like I'm basically, as we're talking, I never even thought about this before, Richard. But as we're talking, this is like manifesting in my mind, and this is what I'm going to be doing. And how I'm going to do it is I'm going to build enough money and pull money from, my VAC claims, my Veteran Affairs Canada claims that I have from my injuries. I'm going to sell my places. I'm going to pool all together, and I'm going to take a risk. It's going to be calculated risk. I'm going to buy a $1 million home, and it's going to have what I just talked about, and I'm going to buy an RV. I'm going to set this business up, and I'm going to do it in BC. This is what I'm going to do. And I'll have at least 2 years of a pension coming in, covering my salary, 75% without tax, which is basically my full thing. In case I fuck up, which I don't think I will. I'm already a decent host. So I'm going to pour all of my money into, I guess, a business, which is hosting. And then I'm going to get enough experience, enough good ratings, ideally 5-star across the board, and expand from there. Maybe come up with my own hosting company, coach people on how to host, come up with my own cleaning company, and then expand. So if I start building money, pay off the mortgage, and then now put money into other units, and then eventually get to the point where I can sell all of it, build this massive, or get this piece of land, build a homestead with a bunch of accommodations and offer an experience. So while I'm going to do this, while I'm in Vancouver Island, part of the stay, like I'm also going to offer an experience there. So this is going to be like a third part. So I'm going to have like the upper or lower unit, but I'm also going to offer backpacking.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to say like minimum time, if you're super fit, is 3.5 days. Maximum time, so we don't like shoot ourselves in the face with boredom, is 5 days for the Wanda-Fugu
Right.
Trail. And if I can build up to the point where I'm like running the trail, then I can offer to a few select athletes a 2-day trip. So like we go and we camp at Sunrio Beach, and then we're basically running it. And then at Sunrio Beach, I'll just have like the tent and stuff in a geocache, kind of hidden off in the
That
the
would be
forest.
neat, yeah.
And then maybe one day when I'm as jacked as you are, I can offer a 1-day run, which is 47K on super rough terrain. But I don't know. That would only be for people like you.
Yeah, I've just recently I bought like a
So yeah,
small
man.
tent that kind of like a one-person tent that can fit like in a backpack. So now I can potentially like run and then camp on a trail and carry like a tent and everything with me.
Sick. How heavy is the
It's
tent?
pretty. I think it's 2 pounds, not including the poles, and there's just kind of like 1.5 pole sort of in poles, maybe 4 pounds total or something.
That is sort of like that's like mega light, and then there's like ultra light, which is the Z-Pack
Right.
tent and bag. Now you're basically paying. Now it's a tent that actually sets up, and that's the interesting part. And it's like 800 grams, like fully loaded. And then the bag is a pound, if not less than a pound, and it has like volume. So yeah, I mean like 2 pounds is good
Yeah, my
if
tent.
you're willing to
This tent
like
was only like $100 or
drop.
something, so I feel like it's like
Oh well, what tent?
it's the
What's
Eureka,
the tent called?
Solitaire. Yeah, it's
Send me
like
a link.
I guess 120
I'm looking
bucks
for a tent.
US. Let's see. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was thinking of like the MSR Hubba Bubba 2. Now, I've tried it out, and you can take out the actual tent part and just use a ground sheet that you buy separately with the poles, which are carbon fiber, and the fly. And now that is probably a pound, and it's spacious and it does what it needs to do. It's just like if you have bugs, if you're in Ontario, what do you even think about it? But like in BC, now, okay, there are mosquitoes in BC. I was always saying that there wasn't mosquitoes, but there are, and they love the Germans. So my German buddies came with me in my recent backpack trip. They got fucking swarmed, covered in bumps. I didn't have one bite. It
Yeah, I
was
found that is
hilarious.
for me as well. Even if I get
But
bitten, I don't feel that the bites itch that much.
I guess I'm used to like the mutant ones from Gagetown and go through Kevlar. Those things are huge. They'll carry you away if you're not careful. Thanks for sending the link. So yeah, cool, man. There's like ultralight stuff, but then you're paying like $800,
Yeah.
$900, and it's ridiculous. Now I'm gonna go that route. Maybe buy used and see, but yeah, because like I got shoulder issues, neck back issues. So I mean, if I could shred off any pound, I will. I'm even thinking about
Yeah.
making my own food, like dehydrating my own food instead of paying a fortune for that pack stuff. And then, I mean, like I think anybody can do it. You just come up with a recipe, make sure it doesn't perish, it tastes good, and dehydrate it, slap a label on it. Okay, you gotta look at distribution and stuff, but there's definitely a market for it. You just need a fancier fucking label than the labels that are out there.
Local farmers market. Sell at a local
And then
farmers market.
yeah, or like go to Mech and see if they take you up, or go online, just pure online, and then maybe you can set it up at some sort of factory and just, I don't know if it's drop shipping or what you would call it. I need to look into that stuff a bit more, but you have the concept, you have the advertising out there. People, toss it on Amazon, and then people buy it, and then the manufacturer just sends it directly to people. And you offer like $5 less. Like discounted shipping or free shipping for orders over $100, maybe $200. Because like when I went to Mac, I spent 140 there easy for 5 days, but I didn't include breakfast. So like I went and I saw a pack of like oatmeal at Canadian Tire, dehydrated. They're charging $15. I was just like, you are out of your effing mind. See, I would charge 15 bucks for the dinners. Now they go for about 20 with meat. And I would charge I have a hard time charging even $10 for the breakfast. I think I would charge $7.50 because I would do dehydrated strawberries and raspberries and blueberries. Like you'd be dehydrated. So there's the energy and time that goes into that. So oatmeal's dirt cheap. So not charging for that. Not a lot, but it's the dehydrated fruit. So, I want to turn a profit, but I also don't want to like gouge people. And the breakfast is going for $15. I can't believe it. You can buy a huge thing of oatmeal at Costco, the individual packets.
Yeah.
And you're good to go. You just throw them in a Ziploc bag and then, toss them in a pot, heat it up, and you're solid. And you can get dehydrated fruit from Bulk Barn.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend the stuff that has like the extra sugar added in. It's disgusting. But like dehydrated mango, just mango,
And what do you
dehydrated, no
just
additives.
eat it dry?
Amazing.
Or do you rehydrate?
You can, yeah, you can eat it dry. You grab a piece, you snack on it while you're on the
Right.
trail. You snack
Yeah,
on it while you're
mango. I
camping.
think
The
it's
other
sort
thing
of
you can
still
do,
like gummy. It's like a little bit gummy and chewy when it's dried. Mango. Yeah, I remember that.
yeah, but you could also just toss it in with your oatmeal, let it sit for a little bit, and it like basically rehydrates and separates, and now you got like a nice mango flavor with your oatmeal. Now, you're supposed to have balanced meals, so you need to pair your carbs and protein. So I'm also gonna add in like hemp seed, and I'm gonna have on the package explaining the importance of having balanced meals, so you don't have crashes. And you also don't produce excess cortisol, which happens when you crash. So like, there's gonna be a little bit of lifestyle, a little bit of education on the packages. So like every meal will be perfectly balanced, the right amount of macronutrients for what it is that they're doing. And it's going to have the right amount of calories too. So I'm going to, there's a bit of math there I'm going to be doing. So not so much that it's going to make them cramp and pull out all their water from their system. Like if you eat too many carbs, you're going to suck away all their water. But yeah, like it's going to have a nice balance between
What
the
do
three
you do
macronutrients:
for how do you
the
carry
fat,
water
carbs, and protein.
on a trip like that? How do you get water? Like these
Well, it depends
three
on
or
the trip.
5 days, like you were saying in this
So,
trail. Is there water on the way or something?
uh, yeah. So some people still like to carry tons of water with them. I scratch my head for that. I guess they just don't want to be without and be. So, but there's tons of, even like the uh, hottest time of the summer. Even when the rest of BC's on fire and there's a fire ban because it's so bloody hot out. There's always fresh water coming down. Now, I mean, I imagine it's super fresh. I still purify it though. So I have a water bladder. I do like having it. It's 3 liter capacity. I put a liter in it because then I put it on top of the bag and it has a hose. And I like just being able to just suck on water when I need it instead of having to stop and pull out a canteen or whatever else. And my buddy Patras, he has 2 water bottles on the front. He has these little clips. He like sips one bottle, sips the other bottle, so the weight distribution is the same, so it's easy access. Yeah, and that works too. I think if anything, that works
That's my
better
system.
than what I'm
Yeah,
doing
on the front.
because his weight's now Yeah, he has a bit of weight in the front, which is, you know, offering a bit of compensation to the weight in the back there. Plus now, like, that weight's in the front and not on top of your bag, which is then pulling you back further. I do like his way. I'm gonna go with his way.
It's nice to
I think in the future,
when they're on the front,
I
you
think
can kind
pulling
of
the water bottle.
see visually like how much water you have left in a pretty easy way. Yeah.
Yeah. So the water purifier I recommend to anybody now is called the Platypus. Okay. And yeah, I'm not affiliated with them, but I should be because I'm constantly talking about it and trying to sell it to people. Platypus is basically 2 bags with a gravity-fed purifier. And I first saw this, my buddy Andrew brought it on a trip. 4-liter capacity on one side, 4-liter capacity on the other side. Grabs 4 liters of water from the gushing river instantly, takes him a second, seals off the bag, attaches it to the water filter and the other bag, and it just filters through, takes a minute. That's it. Now you have 4 liters of purified water. It weighs like nothing. You got 2 empty bags and a super lightweight purifier and a couple hoses. That's it. So like what I have is like a $100 pump, and the water filter needs to be replaced every 2 years, I think, or it gets jammed up. It's heavy, bulky. You pump, and a little bit of water comes out. Now the thing is Platypus is good if you have like running water or like a reserve of water. Even if it's like still, you can still pull the water out and use it. Now in desperate situations where you have like just like a almost dry puddle of mud, you can't use the Platypus. It'll clog up and break. You can use the purifier that I have. So it has like a filter on the end to stop debris from coming in, and also it's filter in the chamber. So you can take the little end that has the filter, toss it in sludge, and almost dried up water source, and pump the shit out of that, and you'll get clean, fresh water out. You can't. So depending on where you're going, it's going to dictate the filter you're going to need and how much water you need to carry. So the answer to the question is it depends on what you're doing. But yeah, you want Juan de Fuca, shit simple, Platypus. And I always recommend to carry at least 2 sources. There's 2 ways to purify water. So water purification tablets weigh nothing. Always nice to have it as like a plan B. And plan C is your plan B is you can boil water. You can just boil water. But then the thing is, boiling water requires fuel, or you do over fire. But if there's a fire ban, then you can't. So I would use purification tablets as a plan B if my filter broke or whatever.
Filtering it through those
anyway,
little direct ways is very nice because if the stream is like fresh and cold and you can sort of just like quickly filter it and drink it, you get to preserve like the taste and the temperature and everything. I guess but then like the tablets would change the taste and boiling it would like heat it up. But it's nice to feel like you drinking it right at the temperature of the stream.
Yeah, and it's really refreshing, those streams. Like I'm always like ripping off the clothes and jumping in naked to cool down as many times as I possibly can. And it's something about that recent experience taught me, like, so I don't know if it's because when you go under a super cold shower, it forces you to inhale, hold, and exhale, like very heavy, because like the cold just like, hop into a cold shower, you know what I'm talking about. Now I don't know if it's that activates, some healing in the body, because I know like the box breathing is the one way, or deep controlled breathing is the one way to kind of calm our sympathetic nervous system, activate the parasympathetic. Oh my god, parasympathetic. Okay, help me out. You know what I'm trying to say? The para version of the sympathetic nervous system, the one that calms us down, lowers the heart rate, blood pressure, all that stuff. So the breathing is how we do that. The cold shower forces me to take deep breaths. Can't do that cold, shallow breathing in there. That's just me. I don't know. But I go and I hop in the cold water, or there's like little waterfalls and freezing cold, and it refreshes me. I think it brings down inflammation too. So what I've been doing is I put the shower on cold, and I hop in for 20 seconds to give myself a rinse off. You don't need soap. Soap is just a commercial construct. Same thing with shampoo and conditioner. When you really think about it, it's funny because you use a soap to strip away all your oils. You use a moisturizer so you don't get dry. But also when you strip away all your oil, okay, let's look at your hair. Use a shampoo. Okay, so you use a shampoo, strips away all your oils, put a conditioner to kind of give you some moisture back. But before the moisture goes back in, you just shock the shit out of your scalp, and now your body's going to produce a whole bunch more oil. Now you have an oily scalp, super oily scalp. In addition with it, because now you have the conditioner as well, and then you're like, oh fuck, now I need more shampoo, and then the process repeats, right? So that's how they get you. You don't need shampoo, conditioner, or soap. Now, with the exception of not spreading bacteria, germs when you're eating, because you wipe your ass, you don't want that going near your mouth. Also, people are sick, and you got lots of colds floating around, so you wash your fucking hands. I'm not saying don't do that, right? Like, you gotta wash your hands so you don't spread stuff. But really, when it comes down to the shower, you don't need all that stuff they say you need. Now, what I need to experiment with on my own time when I'm not going to be around people in civilization is try stopping deodorant. Because the smell is just the bacteria feasting on moisture, right? So if the bad bacteria are overwhelming the good bacteria, that's going to happen. Now, if you have good bacteria and bad bacteria and they kind of fight each other, balance each other out, are you going to have BO? I don't know. So I want to experiment and see what is required to balance out the good bacteria in my groin and my pit area and see if I can go without stinking. So that is an experiment to come. Now, I expect, though, if you work out, you're going to want to rinse off. And if you work out, you have extra heat and extra salts from the body. Imagine the bad bacteria are going to go fucking nuts on that. But you rinse it off right away. Is there going to be an issue?
Yeah, I've noticed I
don't know.
I pretty much just do shampoo on my hair a little bit, and then I clean various parts, but I almost very rarely do I put soap over my whole body and whole skin or whatever. I notice just on the big on my chest and back and arms and stuff, there's no encrusted dirt. If it's just because I don't we sweat out of certain areas, our armpits sweat and stuff, so maybe wash those with a bit of soap sometimes, but we don't I find I don't sweat directly out of my forearm, for example, and that area doesn't get very dirty, so then there's no reason to put soap all over it or something.
Mm-hmm. Well, we sweat all over. It's just the ability for our pits and groin to dry out, right? They stay kind of moist. I fucking hate that word. But yeah, what triggered this idea, this idea for the experiment, is that there was a period of time where I did not stink. Now, I put on a little bit of deodorant. When the deodorant faded away, I didn't stink. And even though it was long gone, some days. And I'm like, this is interesting. Why don't I smell? Am I sick or what? But then there's other times where even after I rinse off, I can't get that tang off my pits. It is stinky. And I'm like, I just washed. I'm like, I grab soap because I'm like, I can't deal with that smell. It makes me sick over time. My own BO is nasty. And so I grab soap. When I use soap and I fucking clean it. And I get out of the shower and I smell like I stink again. What the fuck is going on? Why do I stink again? I go back in the shower, use more soap, come out. A little bit of time passes, I stink again. And I'm just like, okay, I gotta put on deodorant. Just gotta lather it all on. Overdosing on the deodorant. But I shouldn't need the deodorant to mask the BO right away. Why do I have the BO immediately after showering? And I don't know. So perhaps the bad bacteria has gone crazy. And that's why I want to experiment, because I've had both ends of the spectrum where no smell for a long period of time and then really stinky even though I just cleaned. So I want to figure out what's going on there. Anyway, yeah, so man, for me the focus right now is money. And what the future looks like. I've been putting time into the Airbnb and trying to build that skill set, realizing I'm a really good cleaner, super effective to the point where like I can train others and have my own company of cleaners, no problem. Very easy. Just that people are unreliable. I mean, but they would be reliable, I'm sure, if they got paid a lot. And I know that Airbnb operators want consistent, reliable cleaners that do everything they're supposed to do, and that they never need to check in on the unit. Because I mean, a bad cleaner, or sorry, rather, a cleaner can make or break an Airbnb business. So I'm hanging out with Michelle, and she has like an Airbnb empire. So I'm not supposed to name names, but I'm naming names.
Free
I've
advertising.
been naming names all this whole chat. Sorry. Yeah, but she has like she has 5 properties, but like a whole bunch of Airbnbs, so like multiple units that go up, and I'm realizing like the military has given me some skills. Like I'm really good at organizing. I enjoy organizing, but like I'm realizing that she needs a bit of help. She's expanded beyond her ability to maintain it all. So she needs employees, basically. Yeah. She's expanded. She's too big now to do it all herself. And so like things are falling apart. And like she's just day to day decisively engaged trying to put out the next fire. And that's where we were at one unit cutting the grass because it was overgrown, and looking at the basement unit of this other place that's gonna have a guest tomorrow afternoon, but the carpet's completely fucking muddied. The cleaner didn't do their job properly and lied, said that there was toilet paper or paper towel, none. Like it just, the list goes on and on and on. Like the fucking coffee table's gone missing. Like it was straight up stolen. So it's like, we're looking at this and we're like, wow, like this is what happens when you have a shitty cleaner. But also too, when you get shitty guests. But your cleaner is your person on the ground, right? So if they're not relaying the right information, you're not going to be able to submit your claims on Airbnb to get your compensation back. Nor are you going to know, you're not going to know that your place is dirty and messed up to bring in the contractors to remedy it, right? So like having reliable cleaners is like, I don't know, what's the word? Blood?
Yeah.
Lifeblood? It's the lifeblood of your business? I'll figure it out. So yeah, I'm experiencing all this firsthand. I mean, it's one thing to have one unit, but then when you're dealing with like 9 or 10 units, you can see how fucked up it can get, how quickly it can get messed up. And so it's like, we sat down, we did this sort of like, we mapped out this, I don't know how to describe it. Each of the properties did a circle around it and all the tasks that have to be done for them. And there's a lot of overlapping tasks and reoccurring tasks. So it's like, you got all these things. You need a not a contractor, you need like a maintenance person. So you got to hire a maintenance person that's going to do jobs case by case basis, but then like the routine stuff, like taking out the garbage and cutting the grass and shoveling the snow, because we shouldn't have to do that. And if we don't do it, then we draw attention to ourselves, or she draws attention to her units, and that can cause trouble. So it's like there's that. But then if like the maintenance doesn't get done, then the unit's in disrepair, and the guests are not going to be happy with that. And that's one side. The other side is having like a fucking team of cleaners. Got to have reliable cleaners, and then sometimes they get sick. So I mean, that happens. You're going to need to have a plan B too, right? So yeah, looking at all that, we're determining what the priorities are, and it's an overwhelming amount of work for one person. And it got to that point because she expanded before she had she had a system in place. And that happens. So you move forward beyond your capacity, and you don't realize it until it all falls apart, and then now you're drowning. And here's the thing is, like, when you put in all this money of all these properties, now these are all liabilities. You need to make the income. Otherwise, you're going to be paying out of pocket for it all, right? So the total, let's say it's a lot of money. It's more money than I make in a month going into these places. It's more money than I make in 2 months going into these places each month. So actually, it's about 3 months worth of my pay going into these places every month. So it's a fucking lot. So if you you don't have the rooms filled because of this problem or that problem, then that's going to come out of your pocket and can quickly cause you to lose everything. So we determine priorities because that's the only way to do it. I mean, I'm doing the stuff I want to do. Like, I like purging shit and organizing. So like we were working on our garage and I did some landscaping around the house, and like I like that stuff. But that's not the priority because that's not gonna bring in money. That's sort of like future steps, like turning her garage into sort of like a central warehouse where we accumulate stuff for the next house. And that's the big picture future stuff, right? And like focusing on clearing out the garage to do that because there's a bunch of old stuff in there that don't belong, paperwork and whatever else. So that's not the priority. That's the future. So like I'm even bad for that. Like I want to do what I want to do, but then like, hey, gotta write down the priorities. This is the next attacked item. We got to do this item. And
it is cool that you
lots of
like
fun.
you sort of know someone that is in a position that you're trying to like work towards, and they're facing challenges that hopefully like you'll face someday and solve.
Well, yeah, and it's cool I'm experiencing this because like I kind of know what the solutions are thanks to my training and my experience. So I know I've been a great help. I don't need anybody to tell me that. Just did the dusting my shoulder gesture there. But now this is on my resume. I've helped an entrepreneur better their business, improve systems, improve income. So basically, she's going to know what her income is now. And once I do my thing, we'll see what her income is. She's probably going to double 100%. And I'm going to be able to claim to people that I've helped an entrepreneur double their income, 100% increase. Because like I've sorted out their system, cleaned up the process and got to the point where they could step away because they hired people and they were able to do analytics and apply the 80-20 rule and then cut out the fluff and focus on what actually generates revenue and then duplicate that and eventually automate that completely and fully. And when they get to that point, it's like they're going to have this asset. It's going to become an asset. She could pay off all the mortgages because you can be just rolling in dough.
Yeah.
Now they're all assets. And then she can sell them all and then pool that money together to do the next mission, right? So I think it's cool. And I think it's a lot of good experience. And it's like, it's funny how like I stumble upon the next thing. Like I stumble upon Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I'm helping out Michelle with her stuff, and I'm getting out of the military. Like I had to force the transition. I'm forcing my way out and getting the benefits for it. Like it's just like as I take steps, like the stones are appearing in front of me that I need to walk because of the experiences that I'm having. I know what my next step is going to be.
Yeah, it's a neat,
my next series
feeling.
of steps, and it's through the experiences. Yeah, it also just like our conversation. I just basically came up with what I'm going to do on the spot because all the conditions were there, and I had just talking to you connected the dots, and like, well, there I go. And part of it too is like I've seen an Airbnb done this way, where a guy had this big massive house, upper unit, main house. I think he even had a basement. And what he did was, he rented out the one unit, and if someone took his home, which was like $1,000 a night because it was like on this lake, then he would just go into the basement area and chill out there. My idea is they'll have a home that has upstairs area, downstairs, and then me go in an RV. But if I can get a place that has 3 separate livable areas, then I'm just laughing. They have 3 areas of Airbnb.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but that didn't come to the surface until that memory didn't come to the surface until we were talking. And then the RV thing came because my aunt and uncle were renovating an RV and living in one in BC. And they wanted to travel around BC, but then just the cost of living there is too much. So they had to go back to Alberta. But like, I wanted to do their dream. And so now I can actually do that in BC. But anyway, I get to the point where I can buy a detached home that has that, right? So anyway, money is the priority. Learning about money, building that foundation. And I'd be happy to talk more about it down the road. Because like I've changed my priorities. Before it was all about building community and investing in relationships. And they haven't been panning out for me, Richard. I mean, our relationship's great, and I appreciate that. But like I've been putting everything into all my relationships. And I realized, like, you know, applying that 80-20 rule. Only 20% of you give me the 80% value. Like, you got only 20% of my friends give me 80% of the value. So why am I going to keep the other 80% of people and put all that energy into them, right? So I made some cuts. I'm investing into that 20%. They give me that 80% back, and I'm taking that other energy and I'm putting it into learning and growing as a person.
I guess the whole
Learn
friends
about
and
money,
community,
investing,
that's like
and
part of the diversification too. Like not only do we invest some of our time in learning about money, we invest some of our time like building community, but then even like inside the community, you know, you invest in 10 people and only two return, then like maybe cut the 8 people, but then find like 8 new people to invest in just to keep it like a diverse crowd that's always sort of evolving or something.
mm-hmm. Yes, like I pulled out of like the big
Yeah, you were saying
burner
they're like too into it.
circ
They're too
group, like
yeah.
just too big. Yeah, too big, too much partying. They're all about releasing. I'm about growing, right? Like I want to put my energy inward instead of like doing drugs. And I mean, it's cool to see people run around naked in fur coats and whatever else. I mean, I like that energy, but I can't do that all the time. And
Oh yeah.
like hopping from festival to festival, it's expensive, but it's also like very, very, very tiring. And so from that group, there's a farm. One of the core members has a family farm in Peterborough. This place is gigantic. It has hens, it has Highland bulls, cows, and they have a nice little, basically a cabin there built on the land. And you know, running water, heated showers with using a propane heater. Um, yeah, we pull water from the spring. There's gray water pump to bring it out. We got, like, it's pretty Gucci. And we set up tents and we hang out there as a group and we have fires. Because no one's going to fucking tell us we can't have a fire on that patch of land. So no one's going to be able to know, right? And so from that community of like, I don't know, 80, 100s expanding, right? Only like 10 or 12 people are going to show up at a time at this place. So it's more intimate. And it doesn't happen as often. It might happen twice a year, 3 times a year. And that's my kind of thing. That is something I can do for the rest of my life and be happy doing it. I will fucking fly out from
That sounds
BC
nice.
to attend that. That's how cool it is.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
good.
man. Well, I think we're at time, so chat again next. Yeah, I appreciate
No
the time
yeah,
shift
next
there,
Tuesday
the date
works.
shift. Well,
Yeah,
name
I'll
for
see you
next
then.
Tuesday.
You too. Bye.
All right, man. Have a good night. Bye-bye.